Hey guys, Ben here going over your video eval, just going over some mechanics and watching your swings a few times. A couple things I did see to work on that I want to talk about in regards to, let's start with the feet up. And the first thing I saw in regards to our stance looks pretty good. I like where your hands are. The only thing I would change with your hands is that your hands are nice and high, but your barrel sometimes drags on you, which means it kind of stays down here. So make sure if your hands are going to be that high that your barrel stays up. And you have your hands nice and high, but your hands have a tendency to fall. Your eyes are in good shape. You have good posture. The only other thing I would add, too, is I'd get a little bit more athletic in your legs. You are a little bit tall, and that's going to take away power in your swing as you go forward. So probably just get a little bit more athletic in athletic position. Let's go to our next phase of analyzing, which is going to be your land foot here. So one thing we do as we get ourselves going, we don't really get ourselves loaded back. Typically you start middle and then you kind of have some type of a load. Either your hands go back or your weight goes back or a little bit of transfer. So if you think of your legs as being 50% of your weight on one side and 50% of your weight on another, you at least want to rotate back to where you at least get an extra 10 or 20% of weight into your back leg before you go forward. So your hands got to separate. Your weight has to get ready to separate and transfer, but if you just go 50-50 and we just go forward, we didn't go back at all. So I think that's really important for you, is to get on a tee and to not have a lot of backward movement, but a little bit in order to get something going in your swing compared to just going forward, because if you just go forward, it's just going to be all arms and not a lot of lower half. So I think we can get a lot more out of your swing. The other thing I want to focus on, too, let's talk about is your eye level. So I'm going to put the eye level there, and then at contact I'm going to put the eye level. And we stayed pretty much consistent. Now, the only thing is with that is at the end, we can see a couple things that didn't happen. One is that backside didn't get rotated, that hip. You didn't release that hip. You can see that hip's left back here, and that back foot's not turned, and that knee's not turned. What you basically want to do is take this back knee into the front knee, or we call it take the back knee going down to the front foot. You don't necessarily have to turn the foot, but you got to make sure that your hips get released and they don't stay, non-turn. You got to be able to release those hips, and that's very important to do. But you can see as I rotate, I don't get completely turned, and that's going to make a big difference in regards to your swing. So make sure as you get yourself, start 50-50, go back to 60-40, and then come back to 50-50. But make sure you release those hips to get through that barrel and to stay through that ball. The more you release those hips, the longer you can stay through the ball. The other thing I see, too, is we have a tendency to want to cast. So what happens if we watch that lower arm? This arm gets pretty locked out really early, and you can see that barrel is already getting below my hands. If you look back behind you, that barrel is really, really low. It's something we really got to work on to make sure that we have that barrel to work on, to make sure I can get back and get through the baseball. So as I go to land foot here, you can see those arms go back, but that bottom hand begins to straighten out on me. And that's going to turn us into casting, which we're going to be late. The other thing I want to talk about, too, is your top hand. So notice right here at contact, a top hand, we don't stay in the zone that long. And in the zone, I mean, if the ball's coming down this direction, you want to stay on plane as long as you can. So what happens is you're on plane, now you're already off plane. So you're only in the zone for a shortened period of time. So I'll write a little line of how much you're in the zone. So you're in the zone for about this much. And we want to be in the zone probably from this point all the way to there. We want to keep our barrel in the zone for an extra foot or so. But what happens is your top hand is rolling over, and it's kind of snapping over. So if I get to contact right there, you can see, watch your top hand now. I'm going to draw a circle around your hands. You see that top hand is beginning to turn over. What you want to do is you want that hand to snap through instead of over. So what I would do is what's called the 2T drill. Basically, you want to get a tee here, and let's say a secondary tee here that's a little bit taller than the first, and kind of place a ball on both tees. So what you want to do is you want to trying to be able to hit through both baseballs with your bat. You're really going to hit through both balls, and that's going to keep your barrel on plane. We need to hit through the ball better. Releasing those hips and kind of turning that back knee in a little bit, and at least rotating that back heel a little bit. It's going to help you get through the ball better, and just let you get all the way through it and behind the baseball compared to at the baseball. We always talk about hitting through the ball and not at the ball. And what's happening now is you have a tendency to want to go out and get the ball. Another thing that's going to help you too is when you load up, if you start 50-50 and you let up 60-40, what's going to happen is that ball is going to be able to travel a little bit more because you have a tendency to want to go get the ball and get out in front, which means you're already at your rope. And that's going to make a big difference in regards to your swings when you're trying to let the ball travel and hit the ball where it's pitched. It's going to make it a lot easier for you to work on here when you let that ball travel, when you get yourself to go back a little bit more. You can see again that bottom hand is really beginning to straighten out on me. So you got to make sure that lower hand does not want to totally firm out on you and lock out that bottom arm. So that's something to really be working on.